my dad was a very, very, very wealthy man.
Yeah.
You know, you can build your empire, but you have to understand why you're building it and for whom. Those of you who say money doesn't buy everything, you don't know where to go shopping.
Maybe that's the title of this episode. Hey guys, welcome back to Financially Incorrect. I'm finding it very difficult to give this intro because because my guest today is a former client of mine, and I think she's laughing because she didn't ever think that
here we would be.
that like here we would be and that I would be here doing this intro. But anyway, this is Financially Incorrect. This is a podcast where we have a cheeky take on serious financial topics. This is a podcast sponsored by FX Pesa, and I am your host, Barrack. Welcome to this week's episode. We hope you guys have been enjoying the content and the stuff I've been putting out. Today, I'm hoping to have a really exciting conversation with the one and only Pinky Ghelani.
Hey, Barrack.
Yeah. Who is a conversation curator. She has had so many titles. I was trying to remember each and every one of them.
Jack of all trades.
Yeah.
But they say what's the saying when it comes to jack of all trades, master of none?
Yeah, but apparently people cut that short.
No, but it also continues to actually say that you should be doing a lot. It's called hustling.
We hustle. Yeah. So we have Pinky with us today, who has had, who has lived life.
Yeah, or life has thrown curveballs and made me sort of take swings at them.
Yeah. So, I mean, she's done lots of interviews. If you've, I guess, heard watched any of them, I'm sure you'll know quite a bit about her. Today, we'll try and get her money journey story and understand that a little bit better.
Sure.
Before we started this conversation, Pinky looked at me and asked me, basically the career path that I was in before this, and she asked me, does that actually make money?
Yeah.
Like, can you survive?
Yeah.
With a lot of concern, in her face. But yeah, I guess, I made it to here. So,
we're here.
Yeah, we're here now. So here
but you're no longer in that industry, which says something as well.
Yeah, I guess in one way or another. Yeah. Like I said, it can work. I think if it may require a couple of things, I think a certain level of commitment. I think you need to be in a certain place in your life as well.
Yeah.
And I think it can work there. Yeah.
Okay.
And for reference, we're talking about, I guess, influencer management.
Yes. Yeah.
Specifically.
Yeah. And he was actually, you're quite badass at that as well. So I'm sure a lot of people miss you in that space.
Yeah. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Anyway, so let's get to it, right? So when growing up, I'll literally just dive right into it.
Sure.
What was the money situation like for you?
Very privileged.
Yeah.
In the sense,
very, very privileged.
Extremely.
Yeah.
Extremely. My dad was a very, very, very wealthy man.
Yeah.
So, growing up, hearing trust funds, money in the UK, checks here and there, just like this was talk that was around me. Parties being thrown almost on a weekly basis, a very lavish life, a 5-bedroom house on a 5-acre property in Loresho at that time. It's very rare.
Yeah.
And, the best schools. I feel like my brothers had it better because I'm the baby, right? So I was even telling my kids the other day, I'm like, your uncles were flown business class when they went to uni. I had to pay for my own ticket when I finally went to uni.
Yeah.
But that was because circumstances eventually changed.
Yeah.
And I feel Mum was a very trusting person. So when my dad died, I was 6 years old.
When he passed on.
Yeah.
Wait, before you even continue, go down that.
Yeah.
What did your dad do?
Trading.
Really?
So no, he had several companies.
Okay.
All right. And when I look back at his files, because we did a lot of clearing of the companies and we did a lot of, when we moved house, there was a lot of his files. He was into sugar. He was into steel. He was into, there was a company called Kenya Peanuts. That was our company. Ghelani Industries. That was our company. There was Kenya Tradex. That was when he was into trading. And you'd see some of the letters that he'd write at that time. So this is the 60s and the 70s, where he'd be writing to factories or outlets about opening a sanitary factory, sanitary pad factory here, or manufacturing Coke cans here. So he had a lot of foresight, my father. He was a hustler. I think that's where I get it from, in the sense that I'm always willing to do.
Yeah.
I'm never going to say no. And he was a real wheeler dealer. From what I hear, and these are just stories, this is based on hearsay, from a lot of people, even very influential people, have told me, your father was the first person to own a Mercedes in Kisumu. That's my shags.
So you're from the UK?
Yeah, from the
So
sorry,
you
yes, I was
might-
like, no. Well, no, I wasn't born there.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, he was very much, that was his
Kisumu,
way.
yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
his father started off in Malkisi, in wheat, and he used to make him, sweep the floors of this factory. But yeah, and I think my father just had a hunger.
Yeah.
And he was very keen.
Do you have your own, because it seems to have passed on when you're pretty young, do you have your own vivid memories of him?
So he died when I was 6. What do I remember about him? I remember just him sort of calling me into his room when he'd wake up sometimes, and he'd be like, tickle my back, just a father-daughter type of thing. He'd make me sit on his lap when it was my birthday, and he'd make sure that he celebrates, our birthdays. I think because of the trauma, losing your father when you're 6, I blocked a lot of it out. And before you ask, do I do therapy? No.
I wasn't going to ask.
Everyone's like, you need therapy.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm okay. I feel like I've self-therapized.
Yeah.
Although, I feel like there's a lot of memories that I blocked.
Yeah, from that period.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, because of our very extensive research that
I know, I'm very impressed with your researcher.
Yeah, that Shiko conducted here. You are the last born of the second wife.
Yes.
From your dad's marriages,
Yes,
I guess.
yes.
What, and I ask this sort of with caution, but what does that feel like for you? And I ask this before anybody sort of comes for me. I'm asking this purely from a curiosity point of view. I don't know that I've ever actually had this conversation with someone who's like a second, born from a second, second like family.
Second wife, last born.
Yeah.
I feel if my father had been alive for longer, it would have felt very different. However, because he died when I was 6, there was no mollycoddling. There was no being spoilt by anyone. My mom is a very empowered woman in her own right. She was always ready to change the norm, sort of like challenge the norm, not even change it. So she maybe decided, I don't know, and I can't even ask her, that she would raise me differently.
Okay.
Yeah. So yes, as much as there was privilege, I was not, I don't know, maybe people will say different, but I felt I was not spoiled. My brothers,
Or
on the
as
other
spoiled
hand,
as your brothers, or like not spoiled?
yeah. I mean, like, I don't know if my brothers was, again, they lived a very privileged life.
Yeah.
And maybe at that time it was, I don't know, like, it was okay. Because even when I one brother, as you said, passed away. The other one, even when I interact with him, there's no like, he doesn't come off as spoiled, He's also somebody who works hard, and he's a hustler, but he did enjoy a lot of things that I didn't, as the baby, get to, because like I said, things changed and rapidly. So
Okay.
yeah.
And so when I guess when your dad passes on, do you guys now, as a family, as a second family, so to speak, do you guys begin to feel like a second family? Are you made?
Absolutely.
Are you treated as a second family? And that treatment changed overnight.
I mean, like, okay, yes. So my dad was the glue that held this family together. I feel that the first family also felt shafted because of when he married my mom. And I wasn't there. So I can't really speak for either my mom or my dad or what happened. But the first family had, and the first wife always had a grudge against us.
Right.
Fine, fair enough. The kids, however, were okay. They accepted my mother until my father died. And then, of course, we were outcasted completely from them. And then the extended family, my uncles, my aunts, and whatever, yes and no. There was sort of like, oh, we are there, and then suddenly we're not, and then yes, we are. I don't know what that was about, and I really don't understand. And sometimes I sit and I think about it, like they didn't even include us in the family tree.
Oh.
And that to me was painful because I'm like, but I am my father's daughter.
How much of this strife or whatever it is money driven, and how much was just I don't like you because you are a second family?
I've never asked. So I can't say, but because the first wife or the first family contested the will. There was an instance where the minute my father passed away, or they heard he had passed away, they went into his office. I don't know who. Some of the family went in, opened his safe, took all his watches, and took. So it was like, were you just waiting for that? Like, I don't understand. So I can't say what it was. Whether it's money or it's just we don't like you because you spoiled the family dynamic. I don't know.
Interesting. I mean, when you sit, so you may not know the actual answer, but I guess when you sit and think about it, based on your understanding, you being an adult now, among other things.
So, growing up, I was made to feel that it was because of money. It was money. And therefore, I began to dislike money because I said, if this is what money does, and I don't want it. And I really believe now, as I've grown older, I believe in the law of attraction. So I believe that I attracted no money because I disliked
you were like,
it.
I was like, no, this.
Because it caused my mother so much pain. I continued to see her in court cases, and I continued to see her fight for something that was rightfully hers. It was in the will, and lose businesses, lose properties, because she had faith in people.
Sorry, and I just want to get this because I want to understand this as well. So even as a second family, your mom isn't coming into the picture as in an African context of a second wife. Had the first marriage been dissolved?
So this is where, I say my father was a very clever man. And maybe at that time he was like, in the Kenyan system, you weren't allowed to have two wives. So he went to Tanzania and got married to my mom because the first wife refused to give him a divorce. Okay, so by law, he's fine, right? So he's got married in Tanzania, so he has two wives. He's like, this is who I am now. I have two wives. But then because by law, she's still a first wife, she has a say. And so does my mom now. So maybe that's where, but again, when I say, and my husband always says to me, don't put your father down. And he doesn't know. But from wherever he's heard about my dad or whatever, because you can get angry, right? I can have some anger and resentment towards my dad because of the situation
that he
put us in.
By not.
As an adult, knowing what. But he sorted everyone out. He sorted the first family out.
So in the will, he sorted.
Yeah, everything was. I mean, even when I look at the will today, sometimes I read it and I'm like,
what was
clever person?
The
first wife, the daughters of the first wife, the son of the first wife, my mom, because we were all minors. It was all to her and how she, and even. Sort of just verbally, he told her, make sure this one gets this piece of jewelry and that one gets that piece of jewelry. And she made sure that she would dish it out the way he said. And
And you've talked about, I guess, your mom being a little bit too trusting. So is it that she was, I guess, complying with the will and his instructions in good faith and trusting that everyone else will comply? And then...
I feel like she had so many regrets. She has. She's still with us. She has. But she always used to say to me, I wish I had made better decisions. I wish I hadn't, like, she spent hundreds of thousands of dollars
Yeah.
in a movie, a film, because it wasn't only my dad's side of the family, it was
Yeah.
also her side of the family to some point. Her cousin was in Bollywood making films, so she invested in a film.
Yeah.
And she was promised she would get the returns, and nothing happened. And it's just,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's what movies are made of. Like, really, sometimes when
It sounds like it.
I
It
need to
sounds
tell my
like
story.
It. Yeah. No, I
Yeah,
mean
or
it
her
sounds
story.
it sounds incredible.
It's
God,
incredible.
okay.
I mean, like, if I tell you that my dad, when he was dating my mom and she loved to drink Vimto, he bought her the Vimto factory. That was their love story.
That's I'm laughing. People can't see Collins on the screen, and they will probably understand why I'm laughing. But
Yeah.
it's because of Collins that I'm laughing, because that is crazy.
And, that's what I'm saying. So
But that is also crazy wealthy. That's
it's
also
crazy wealthy. I
Yeah.
mean, Mr. Kirubi, who I ended up working for,
Yeah.
worked as a messenger for my dad.
Wow.
Just Mr. Merali, who's the late now, but his family is the wealthiest family in Kenya at the
Yeah.
moment, was like a mentee to my dad.
Yeah.
So, there's all these stories, and I'm just like, wow.
So I have so many questions, so many questions from there.
Didn't you wish my dad was sitting here?
No, not really. Actually, I mean, yes, in terms of being able to generate
wish.
the wealth,
Yeah.
it's great. But what I'm curious about now is, I mean, you must, like, literally, when you say you are very, very privileged, clearly that was the case. I'm curious about how much emotional turmoil or how much strife you must have been put through to be like, I don't want money. Like,
Yeah.
if this is what money
Yeah.
does to you, I don't want
you could
money.
just see it. It broke. First of all, I feel like my dad died at 49.
Also, he was young.
He was young.
Yeah.
He was a heart patient at 49. So I feel like his hustle also gave him a lot of stress.
Okay.
Okay. So that in itself, like, okay, it's great to make money, but I feel like you should be able to live long enough to enjoy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And not to say he didn't. I think he lived his life.
Yeah.
And then to see, like I said, my mom go through it now, like really go through the motions and being taken here and there and being taken advantage of and being told lies. And it was just something that I looked at. And I grew up believing money is the root of all evil.
Yeah.
And wealthy people are bad.
Okay.
Which is a really bad mindset.
Yeah, to have.
Yeah.
Okay. So let's get back to your story. So your so your dad passes on at you're 6 years old. So between 6 and when you're making the decision to go to university, what's your life like at that point?
I mean, it's still pretty cushioned. I'm going to school. My brothers are going to school. My brothers went to uni when I was doing my O-levels, I want to say. Again, everything was just very easy. There was no, like, just watching my mom go through court cases. We did have a major robbery when my brothers were at uni. Again, my mom's jewelry collection was stunning, beautiful. She had it all at home. And she was going to a bunch of weddings, I guess. So everything is at home. Normally we put stuff in the bank, but she had everything at home. So it was somebody who worked with her for 35 years or worked with the family for 35 years who ended up, taking everything one fine day and disappearing. So, again, I'm like, oh my God, so it's not good to have nice, fancy things. You're going to get hurt or you can get killed because they came in with a knife, apparently. But nobody was home, but they were holding a knife or I don't know. You know, there was a knife found in the...
and jewelry never found, person never found?
Never.
How much was the jewelry worth, do you think?
Oh, gosh, I don't
So, like, they made a fortune and...
I hope so. I hope they sold it for what it was worth. Because, you can sometimes
Yeah.
sell something shiny and be
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, just give me whatever.
Yeah.
So I hope they got one.
What at least got something that they deserved. Okay. So you get through O levels. You're now deciding to go to your brothers go off to
So yeah,
uni.
so both my brothers go off to uni. One of them, the one who passed away,
Unfortunately passed on,
he
yeah.
comes back. So I'm doing my A levels at this point, and he, oh my God, he is a hustler, right? So I see him in the office every day with my mom negotiating deals. There was a butter shortage. So he spoke to all my mom's friends, all the aunties. You need butter? You need butter. You need butter. So he somewhere found butter and he called them. I think he was getting it for 70 bob and he sold it for like double or triple that. And he made his money. And that was who he was, like he was using our garden to grow tomatoes and skooma and whatever. And every Saturday, him and the gardener would walk down the kiosks and he would sell. He also was growing weed
in the backyard.
in the backyard. So suddenly, all these friends are at home.
Yeah, right.
But, he was hustling.
Yeah.
And he was very much, I think, my father's
son.
Yeah, because he got it and he wasn't afraid to make money. And he could see that my mom at this point started to need help to
manage the stuff that she was.
Yeah.
Okay. So at what point? So because of what you see, are you in contemplation about whether you should pursue uni or whether you should just do like the family business?
I'm watching him and I'm like, okay, we got someone who's doing this.
Okay.
Great. There's somebody else who's going to look after us.
Right.
So I decide I need to go to uni and I want to become a lawyer.
Okay.
So I go and a week later he passed away in a car accident. Again, helping my mom move from one go down to another. So she, I guess, took a lot of felt guilt.
Right.
Because she said she woke him up that morning and she said to him, if it's not you, who else is going to help me? Go out there. You're the one who's moving from that go down to this go down. And she also had acquired a flower business at the time. So she used to sit in the flower center in town and sell flowers. So he, she says he came in after lunch and he said, all right, I'm going. I'll see you later. And he sort of waved and from the back. That was the last time she spoke to him. And so came back and I'm just like, okay, so this is life.
Yeah.
The minute I leave home, something bad happens or it's a cycle. Maybe something bad happens or supposed to happen every 10 or 11 years. Because this was 11 years after my dad died.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I started working.
Okay. Question about your mom. And her, I guess, taking over whatever businesses that she was allowed to take over and was working. Is it something she had to learn on the job, or is it stuff that she'd been included? Your dad had clued her in on.
And that's what she said. She said, "I really wish he had taught me.
Yeah.
I wish he had taught me his trade, because all he did is call her up and say, we're getting 50 guests tonight. Make sure you look nice.
Yeah.
Make sure you're gone to the hairdresser, and make sure we have great food."
Right.
She says, I really wish he had told me how to speak to people, how to negotiate. She was learning at the age of, I think in her early 30s, on how to manage a quote-unquote empire.
Yeah.
Because there was trust fund money, there was a lot of properties and businesses.
Yeah.
It wasn't just a business, there were many businesses.
Yeah.
And that's why I guess she blames herself so much, because all of it sort of just fell through. And it's not a bad thing. She just wasn't savvy.
Yeah.
And that's what, I guess you guys talk about over here, is to be a bit knowledgeable.
Yeah.
And it's okay to sort of ask someone, say, yo, hey, hi, I have all of this.
Yeah.
What do I do? It's okay to look like you don't know what to do, because we're never taught.
Yeah.
I mean, even when my kids, even still, like my kids now are learning what we learned in school. I'm like, they don't teach you how to double your money, at least.
Yeah.
Both of them look at me like, what? I'm like, okay, here's money. So my daughter says, I'm going to save it. I'm like, no, don't save it. Learn how to make more.
Yeah.
And she just looks at me like with a lot of confusion. But if we don't teach them now, who's going to teach them?
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing to ask questions about money or learn about money or learn how to double your money or learn how to invest your money.
Yeah.
And I feel like my mom was too proud
to do that.
Yeah.
For and because I guess when you've talked about it, and you sort of gestured like falling away. And I'm asking this again from curiosity. What did the other side, what did the first family do? Did they manage it any better? As far as you know, do you know if they did better? Or did it also not quite?
I think within them there was a lot of turmoil. So there was no unity based on hearsay.
Based on hearsay, yes.
So my half brother rather, he continued through. There was a company called Metal Products, and then I think Tononoka Steel that ended up becoming Tononoka Fireworks, which were his babies.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah,
Tononoka might be like, nah, that was never true.
Yeah.
So all this is based on hearsay, not fact.
Yeah.
But then I feel, and when I spoke, because I've spoken to my half brother a couple of times, I felt like I had a bond with him. So I have reached out to him, and whether it was in my teens or my 20s, recently, maybe about 8 years ago, I think him and I spoke. And he said there's a Ghelani curse on Ghelani men, that we can't make money and we can't keep a marriage together and we can't do this and we can't do that. And I was just like, oh, that makes sense. Because it must be a curse, because what else can it be? And now in retrospect, I'm like, oh, shut up. You just didn't know. You just didn't learn from your dad.
Yeah.
But also I felt he held a lot against my father.
Okay.
And it's okay, childhood trauma, your daddy issues, whatever it is, it's all right to have them. They say it's not your responsibility who caused you trauma.
Yeah.
It's your responsibility to heal.
Yeah.
So the person who may have done or made mistakes, quote unquote, mistakes is no longer here. So how are you going to heal it?
Yeah.
For yourself?
Yeah.
And then how are you going to do better?
Yeah.
Maybe go to Santonomy and get a course.
Figure it out. Okay. So even on that side, they didn't really do that much better than
I don't know.
No,
Because,
from
so
what you've
the
heard or seen,
house
yeah.
that they lived in for the longest time, I think they sold it and made good money.
Yeah.
But again, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So now you're in Kenya. Back to your story. So now you're in Kenya, back in Kenya after traveling for a week.
Yeah.
And you're back, and
Yeah.
now you say, okay, now I'll need to help my mom out.
Yeah.
So what's that process like? Do you then negotiate a salary with her of some sort?
No. My mom never asked me for anything. She'd never say, please help me with this. It was all my choice. Everything was my choice. So, there was a thing of, do you want to go back to uni? And I said, nope. And it was, okay, fine. She didn't push me. She didn't sort of say...
There was no question about the tuition we've already paid.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. It wasn't... It was... I think you've just reminded me. I think I opened a bank account.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So no, there was nothing.
Yeah.
It was there's no obligation. I think it was just so much trauma we were all dealing with.
Yeah.
And I just started working at Yaya Center, I remember, in Tinga Tinga, and I moved up, and the boss of Tinga Tinga opened another 3 shops, and I became a manager. So I was, in my own regard...
How did you get into
I think I went in there and I said, do you need anybody to work? And they looked at me and they said, yeah, sure.
Okay. And
At
even
that time, it wasn't as competitive, maybe.
as it is now.
Maybe like an Indian girl was not doing this work.
Yeah.
So it was like, oh, this is unique.
Yeah. Okay.
Come in full T-shirts. Yeah.
Question. Were you, and I guess your brother who passed on, were you working from just your desire to be an entrepreneur? Because it doesn't sound like you needed it to survive, to pay your bills or to do anything.
I think with my brother, maybe he felt an obligation to help my mom.
Okay.
I don't know. But And I feel also with him, it was a passion. He liked it. There was a thrill in what he was doing.
Yeah.
For me, it was, I want to work. I just want to work. I don't
Okay.
want to sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah.
And it wasn't even about a salary. It was
Yeah.
just, I wanted to be busy and useful.
Okay.
So it was not a matter of going into work with my mom. Because I was like, I don't understand the business. I don't know what you guys do.
Yeah.
I want to do something that I know, which was, of course, at that time I was already modeling. So
Yeah.
I'm like, fashion, hey, let me go fold t-shirts.
Okay. So how are you surviving on a day-to-day basis? Where are you getting your money for survival, for, I guess?
So my salary. Oh, for day to day at
Yeah.
home?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, no. I mean, for the longest time, mom held us together.
yeah.
It was never, oh, you got to sort out the elect bill or the water bill. She held us together. And that's why I'm saying I'm very grateful to my father, because whatever it was, it sustained us. It sustained us. And whatever she was going through, and however bad it was, I also feel like she had a fear of losing it all. And like I said before, I believe in manifestation.
Yeah.
I believe that maybe it was the fear that made her,
Yeah.
us, lose everything.
Yeah.
So, our day to day was never a struggle until it became really bad. But this was after I had joined Capital FM. Yeah.
Okay.
But till then, it was all.
So what happened? What changes at Capital FM? So even at Capital FM, you're not necessarily what do you call it? Too worried about what they're paying you. And was it also based off of the previous connection your dad had
No.
with him?
No, because
Yeah.
it didn't belong to him.
Yeah.
It belonged to Linda Holt
Yeah, at the time.
at the time. So by this time, I had tried media. So I started off at KBC as a presenter, and then I really enjoyed that. Then East FM opened, so I went there, and then I fell in love with Raj, and he was still studying in the UK, and I went to the UK. But all of this was through money I had earned. It was never something I would ask my mom. I remember I would ask my mom for gym membership, and she really, you could see her flinch when she had to write that check for me. And I still remember that. And I'm like, gosh, because sometimes when my kids are like, can you just buy that PlayStation? I'm like, child, I can't.
Yeah.
But she, and again, I don't know whether it's that generation. I don't know whether she was feeling guilt. I don't know what it was. She would never say no, but there was a body language about it that it would hurt her to write that. So I guess this was now.
Is that the point when things have started
Yeah.
diminishing? Yeah.
Now she was struggling.
Yeah.
I don't know what made me come to that. But a lot of the times I was paying for myself.
Yeah.
So I went to the UK, followed stock Raj.
Your husband.
Yeah.
Yes.
My now husband.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I got the job at Capital.
Okay.
And Mom was still working. By this time, she had sold her flower business and she was still going to the office. But then there was nothing that was happening.
Okay.
I think it was just the sugar business. So, the sachets?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was started by my father.
Okay.
So we used to supply, at that point, to only Kenya Airways and Serena hotels.
Okay.
That was it.
Yeah.
But before that, there was a lot of work that was coming our way. And it's very unfortunate because what I've learned along the way is gratitude gives you more. But there was a lot of, we lost that tender and we lost that tender and we lost that. And we're not doing that business anymore and we're not doing. So it's a lot of like, that's what life has become.
Yeah.
So it became the energy, the vibration.
I mean, did you not have any resentment whatsoever? I'm asking this from a perspective. For me, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes.
To my mom?
Not your mom, you. And I think
Oh, resentment
oh
toward
no,
who?
resentment to whether it's to your mom, whether it's the situation, whether it's
Yeah.
to like just what's going on, guys.
I mean, for sure.
That's just like, guys, like what's happening, and I'm assuming again that this the empire, sort of coming
Crumbling.
apart, the empire coming apart doesn't happen overnight.
No.
That at some point there's something in you that's like, guys, okay, I know I'm not business savvy, I know I've not really understood it, but we have to pull it together, guys.
I want to say that I had resentment, but I didn't. I wasn't angry enough to do anything. I'm angry now.
Now you're now you're angry.
I'm
So at that
angry now.
and was it because you talked about the mentality of I don't want money, and money
Yeah.
is negative, and
I think it was also sort of like, like, first of all, it may bring us too much attention. That's one thing. Like, if you have too much money, first of all, you'll be robbed, or something bad will happen. Your father will die, your brother will die. I don't know what it is. Or wealthy people are bad, or you don't make money in a clear way. We've tried to make money in a straight up way, and it's not working because all our work is being taken away from us. But what it was, and it's that victim mentality that you got to step out of. That, like I said, I don't know whether it's my mom's generation or it was who she was. Like, I remember asking her once, Mom, why didn't you force me to get into the kitchen and cook with you? And she's like, because you used to work so hard. You'd always be at work, and you'd come home, and she's like, the last thing I wanted you to do is come and help me in the kitchen. And I'm like, but you should have.
yeah.
Do you see? It's like, maybe she just didn't want to push. Maybe she also felt like, okay, fine, just let it be.
Yeah.
If I try and she went through her fair share of trauma.
Yeah.
With her leg being burnt.
Yes, because I wanted to ask about that. Please tell me. So for I guess audience sake, one of your half brothers burns.
So they're doing a barbecue at home, and
Yeah.
there's a skewer in the charcoal.
Yeah.
And he's like, I need to know where that money is. I need to know where that money is. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And boom, she was wearing a skirt like mine, maybe shorts. 'Cause
Yeah.
And he put it on her leg.
As people are watching.
We were at home, my brothers and I.
Yeah.
And, I was like, in shock. And then he puts it down and he rushes her to hospital. Sorry. Can you see why I'm angry, Barrack?
That's like, because he wanted to find out where money was.
Yeah. Where's the rest of the money? Where's the rest of the money and whatever? And I mean, he's even held a gun to her head. But
this same guy.
yeah, this is trauma that she went through. And I
Yeah.
don't know if this is what I've seen with my eyes.
Yeah.
What's been done when I'm not at home or I'm sleeping. Or,
Yeah.
I don't know. So, I cannot blame my father. I cannot blame my mother.
But you said you're angry now.
I'm angry now because of circumstance. Because adult people knew what they were doing. Okay? They knew what they were doing. They understand the law of karma. I'm angry now because my father worked his ass off. And people are sitting back and being like, oh, yeah, they deserved it, whatever it is. He worked his ass off. So if I need to fight for what belongs to my mother who's still alive, then I must do that. I must do it. Even if it's decades and decades later. I'm telling you, is it like a Spanish telenovela?
Do you still have any? Do you
Telenovela.
still have anything in court, or anything that's still being battled?
There's a trust. We have land. I know it sounds so dramatic.
Yeah.
We have land in Heathrow.
Wow.
But it's at a standstill.
And it's the
because
same thing. The Fast family.
there's a lot more in
Oh,
that.
now there's a lot
Yeah,
more.
there's a lot more in that.
Yeah.
So, but for the longest time, we've sort of just shrugged our shoulders and been like, leave it. But why? You know, like I'm sitting here and thinking, but why should I leave it?
Yeah.
My dad worked hard. My father worked hard to make sure that his children all
Yeah.
would be able to live off that.
Yeah.
So, you know, even if I have to fight for it and it has to be shared, c'est la vie. But who's going to do it? Nobody, everyone seems to be so involved in their own lives or egos or whatever it is.
Right.
I don't know. Nobody wants to talk, so
So
I'm the
it's-
talker.
Yeah. Gosh. Okay. So, so essentially, by the time you're now at Capital, you're making money for yourself. You're living off of money that you're making. What's that process then like? When do you get married? And in that process, are you still living at home? So therefore, your financial obligations aren't like too crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm still living at home. It is not so crazy. You know, mom does her duty and she gets me married.
Okay.
In whichever way she got me married.
What does that mean?
I mean, you know, Indian weddings are huge and lavish
Right,
and
right.
10 days long.
So, yes. Yeah.
So, you know, I sort of didn't want it to be too grand.
Okay.
Also by choice, because my life was very in the public eye
At that
time. Yeah. So I just said, I want a subtle wedding as well. And we were very lucky. Like even Raj says, thank God it was before Instagram. Because,
Right.
I mean, the amount of money that is spent as it is in weddings. But, you know, sometimes as a public person, you do have a bit more pressure and you do need to make it look a certain way.
Yeah.
So thank goodness. But I feel it was beautiful. It was amazing the way everything happened. And it was exactly what I wanted it to be.
So it wasn't a conventional Indian wedding in the 7-10 day party.
I mean, we still had 10 days.
Okay. Yeah.
But there's a lot more I felt if I had the wealth, I would have done. But it was still perfect.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, what is a wedding, a marriage? It's a blessing from the higher being.
Right.
Saying, yes, I endorse this partnership.
Right. Right.
Or sort of just going and making sure it's made official.
Right.
So again, like, yeah, I wouldn't have done it any other way. In fact, I think at one point I wanted it much smaller, much smaller.
So when you're saying much smaller, what number of people were there? How many people did you do?
So there ended up being 1,200 people.
Okay.
I wanted 70. And I said to Raj, I'm like, I only want 70 people. He's like, that's just my family.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, fine. But yeah, at one point, people were calling me like it was a gig.
Oh, like, can we come?
Can we come?
Yeah.
Can you send us like an invite? And I'm like, just come if you want to come.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like mom did her best and she made sure, like she did her duty. She didn't let me put in any money from myself. So yeah, then after that, I'm a married woman, but I'm still hungry for the hustle. You know, Raj's like, yeah, sit at home, look after, and I'm like, no, want to work.
Yeah.
I want to work. So that's when drum came in, and at the same time that I got the drum offer, I got a Capital FM offer. So it was really nice to be able to play with those and feel some sense of like, look at me.
Right.
And then, yeah, just working. And I think at one point I got tired of being an employee. And
So any work that you were doing at that particular point in time was because you wanted to. So none of the money that you were making was coming back to the family. Nobody expected you to do anything or provide for anybody or anything with that money.
But, like where I could, I would make sure, like, take my mom shopping, take her on a trip, things like that. Just And I know she'd always be like, no, you don't need to do this. You
Yeah.
don't need to do this. Please
Yeah.
don't do this. But that was who I needed to give
Yeah.
back to,
Yeah.
if at all. So, but because I live in a joint family,
Mm-hmm.
so my father-in-law was very kind. You know, like he sort of just made sure that we were okay
Mm-hmm.
in the sense nothing needed as such. But Raj was also working. He was working in the family business. However, again, this sounds like a movie,
Yeah.
but where we live, like we have a section to ourselves. So it's like a wing to ourselves. So I was looking after that part.
Okay.
So it became like my own home, and I'd buy like furniture or whatever. But nobody would ask me. And it was just me being
Right.
like
So when you talk about so if you guys are on one wing, then your
in-laws.
in-laws
Yeah.
are on
The other.
side.
Yeah.
So all Raj's siblings
Yeah.
within, like you're all within the same.
Yeah,
The
so
same
now
compound,
most
yeah.
of them are out and married, but his
Okay.
brother still is with us and with his wife and 2 kids. So it's a very traditional setup.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What's that like?
interesting.
It's like a sitcom, or it's like
You know what's nice
Yeah.
about it is that you can leave the kids and you know they'll be okay. Like there's the mother-in-law, there's the aunt, there's the house help, and you know that
There's
these
people
kids
to
are
care.
they're okay. And
Yeah.
if you're slightly late, if you're working somewhere, and you can just call and say, listen, just make sure they've eaten
Right.
and had a shower and put them to bed.
okay, but everyone handles their own financial obligations.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. In our space,
Yeah, within the
yes.
setup. Yeah.
So we treat it very much like, again, because I have my own wing. So now what's
Yeah.
happening when my sister-in-law came in, she also set up her own sort of like space,
Right.
which creates her own, I wouldn't say kitchen, but
Right.
a space where she can,
Right.
buy stuff for her kids
Right.
and stuff. And then we have a communal sort
Right.
of kitchen that we all
Right.
use. So I'd say the brothers participate in looking after the home, maintaining the home, making sure the meals are there, or the electricity, the water is there. And then whatever we're doing, myself and my sister-in-law, we're looking after our own spaces.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, that's interesting.
It's interesting, and there's an agreement. There's no sort of like,
Okay, that's just like extremely unique. It's like, I mean, I'm trying to think about what my life would be like if I still stayed with my brothers in the same sort of space. It would
I
be
mean, it's nice because there is a sense of independence, but we're also just all together.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So it's like, I don't know. It's interesting, but it takes a lot to make it work.
Yeah.
I can't
yeah.
say we got here overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can imagine. Okay. So you get tired of employment. What do you decide to do then? And through employment, either way, I mean, at Drum, at Capital, how much money are these guys offering you?
So at Drum, I think I was earning at that time, it was about 300,000. Capital had offered me 600,000 to do the breakfast show. No, sorry, Drum was 400. I remember this because I wanted to do both. And I was like, I'll be earning a million
a month.
bob.
Right.
And Mr. QB had absolutely no issue. Carol Mundy had absolutely no issue because I would be doing the breakfast show 6 to 10, then go to Drum. It's just media politics.
Yeah.
So I wasn't able to pull that off.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. No. So how long do you do that for?
That was about a year and a half.
A year and a
I think,
half.
yeah.
And so if you're not, I mean, you have no true obligations with the money. So what do you do with the money? Other than, the trips for your mom and sort of giving back in that sense.
Spend it.
Spent it.
Yes. I was under the impression that, and I remember also having an argument in my 20s that you don't know if tomorrow's going to come. So live for today. And someone was like, what are you talking about? Even at Capital.
Yeah.
So if you talk about my spending habits,
Yeah.
they were terrible.
Right.
I would spend until the last 5 bob.
Yeah. Like you finish it.
I would, hey, I have some money. Let's finish it. Let's finish. I didn't know how to save. I didn't know how to invest.
I mean, is this, and maybe I'm reaching here, is your finishing still in one, do you think in one way or another may still be tied to your,
Yeah.
I don't like money?
Before you
Yeah,
even
like,
finish that.
like,
Yes.
I don't like money.
I don't like money.
Yeah, I don't want to have money.
Of
Yeah.
course. And that mentality of like, "Ugh, who needs money anyway?
Yeah.
Like, if you've got it, spend it. If somebody likes something, and it wasn't only that I was spending it on myself. Somebody likes something, let's buy it.
Yeah.
At one point, I think I was buying those shoes that, is it Mocha?
The designer.
Yeah, like just obscene amounts of money just buying shoes, and having nothing in my account thereafter. It's like,
Wow.
I was having this conversation with Raj. I'm like, it's so sad. I started working when I was 17.
Yeah.
It's 31 years later.
Yeah.
And now is when I'm becoming money savvy. It's sad because anybody else who had started working when they were 17 would be owning properties today.
Yeah.
Would have been strategic. If I was open to the fact that I can learn how to invest my money. I didn't know that. And that's one thing I completely regret. I assumed you are born with money knowledge. I assumed you either have it or you don't.
Yeah.
Nobody
so, like
told
there are
me.
guys who know how to make money and there are guys
who don't, and I don't. And it's okay.
What? Okay, that's interesting.
It's so interesting.
It's. I mean, when you look back at it, you're like, yeah, you've worked for 31 years. Then it's like, yeah, well, what did you do with all the money that you made in that process? Yeah.
Exactly. What do I have to show? And I was looking at him. I said, I have nothing to show for it.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, you have experience.
Is that what your husband was saying?
I'm like, thanks, Raj.
Gosh. Okay, but I mean, just on that particular topic, I mean, it must be. We had Murugi here not too long ago, and she was sort of in a similar setup in the sense that there are things that they split 50-50, but her husband really has taken care of a lot of things over the period in time. So there's a period in her life where she was like, yeah, my money, like I just spent it. I mean, so I want to say, I feel like there's an element of it that's a bit like a luxury when there's the option to do that. I would like to think that if you're in, and this is a very ignorant thought, but if you were in a position where you didn't have that luxury, you would have done differently.
No. I think, again, it was my money beliefs from when I was young that you either are able to do it and it is a gift you are born with or you're not. I didn't know. And maybe I should have ended up going to uni because I would have learned a thing or two about money. I didn't know you can educate yourself about money. And that is something that I'm very passionate about sharing now. Yeah. Because there are girls who call me up and they're like, we're going through a divorce. Very much similar. I don't have anything. The flat is in my husband's name. He's going to use his money to take the child away from me. What do I do? And I'm like, go out and work. Go and do something. Sell candles, make honey, do something. Yeah. And because they've come from privileged backgrounds as well, it's a shock. What do you mean?
What do you mean?
But then what do you expect? Yeah. What do you think is flat is not going to fall into your laps. You need to work hard and you need to work for it. So this is why I'm very passionate about educating people on money and the fact that you shouldn't be embarrassed or ashamed to go work for your money, hustle hard. I mean, like everybody says to me, oh, you work so hard. Yeah. We see you online. You're always working. But I love it. One, I love it. Two, I know why I'm hustling. And you were talking about Murugi and her husband. Yeah. My husband and I have also we've been at loggerheads over money. Yeah. Because we bring up our daughters to think that your man is going to look after you.
Yeah.
And if he can't, then you should not marry this man. Now, maybe when you marry him, he can.
Yeah.
But things change,
Yeah.
right? And I noticed this in my marriage.
Yeah.
When suddenly Raj has been financially comfortable, but he's looking after a family business. So
Yeah.
he's not answerable to himself. There's a family, he's
Yeah.
answerable. And they're struggling. So what do? I love this man. I love his children. I'm the mother to his children. Do I walk away? Or do I participate in helping him?
Yeah.
And does that mean that I take away who he is by doing that? Absolutely not. We live in a very different world. And this is a message that I'd like to give other women who are listening. We live in a world that is different from where our parents grew up. Things are expensive. And if you want good things for yourself and your child, there's nothing wrong with you, one, working for it, and two, participating in acquiring it.
Yeah.
And he's always like, no, you don't. He's still of that thing of, no, don't worry. And I'm like, listen, dude, you have so much going on.
Yeah.
You have this much going on. At least allow me to share your burden, especially when it comes to the house or my kids.
Yeah.
Allow me to participate in raising them, in helping pay for whatever they need as well. Because if I'm going through a time where it's okay and it's good, then what am I going to sit? How will I sit on all this money and watch you struggle?
Yeah.
And then wait for you and be like, okay, you know what?
Whatever needs to be.
Zuku or whatever needs to be paid for.
Right.
And when I started doing that, I saw a very different side of Raj. Like a relief. Before it was always like frown and struggle and pain and whatever. And he said to me, he says, you don't understand what you're doing, but you're really helping. And at the end of the day, yes, it is the man's job.
Yeah.
Or so we are told, to provide. Right? But he is human. Men are human beings, and they have the same struggles, whether it's mental health or, whatever it is, it's a battle. And if you're looking for money for people you love because they need it and they are depending on you, and it's hard at the moment, then you're going through a huge battle within.
Yeah.
And if you are a partner or you've agreed to a partnership by marriage or in any other way, then you should be easing the burden.
Yeah.
To, because he's done the same for me when I've struggled.
Yeah.
He's always been like, okay, what do you need? How much do you need?
Yeah.
Like, I need to pay my loan. Here you go. Go pay your loan. So why can't it be both ways?
Yeah.
And why do we look down on that?
Interesting. I'm going to pick up a question from what you've just talked about. There's a very recent study that was done or released by InfoTrack and saying that 73% of Kenyans are in financial strife at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you reckon you're in the 73 or in the 29%? I guess financial strife is relative.
I can't buy my yacht. If that's what you're asking.
But I mean, just in general,
You know what I always say, and I will come off some of the things that I've just said to you about manifestation and what you think about, what you bring about. And I've said it before, even to anybody who listens to me when I'm on social media. Like, yes, times are tough.
Yeah.
No doubt. It is a struggle. But when times are hard, you can either be crying or you can be the person who's selling the tissues.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel I'm the person who's going to sell those tissues.
Yeah.
I'm not going to cry.
That's the position you're going to take.
Even if I'm struggling a little bit, it doesn't matter. It's not permanent.
Yeah.
Nothing ever is permanent.
Yeah.
I have now armed myself with the knowledge on how to become a wealthy woman.
I hear that, and I hear the, like underlying positive statement that you're saying. But I must say that for me, like I sit and I think about what you're saying, and I'm like, when Zimbabwe, and I don't know, so if there's any like economic guys and like guys who really know their stuff,
Yeah. Oh
yeah,
gosh,
please
yeah.
do share the
Oh, my
information.
life.
But my very layman thinking is like in places like where is that place where during COVID they stormed the presidential palace and they were swimming in the president's
Oh,
no. It was like yeah, Sri Lanka, I
yeah.
think, or
Was
something
it?
like
Oh,
that. Anyway, it was
I
those,
don't,
you know,
yeah,
those
yeah,
sides.
yeah.
And for example, like with Zimbabwe, when when it all fell together, I sit and I wonder, were their citizens feeling the same way? And now, when we are being told by experts, it's plummeting, and not to quote or rather even misquote someone like Devindi who says like it's going to be hard, like people are expecting a solution, and in truth there's really no solution that's gonna come, and that there is a possibility that this tanks and that this it doesn't work. So I mean, I put on that cap and I'm like, so I hear the silent issues, but unfortunately
But
we live in a society,
in
you know
in what are we in? What is it?
what the
No,
year.
no, no, no. The dip. Oh my God, this is perimenopause. I forget words.
The recession.
Recession. Thank
Right,
you.
right, right,
Such an
right,
easy
right.
word.
Recession, right. Uh-huh.
It's when most billionaires are born,
Right.
right? So I always question people who say it is going to be like this, and we know for sure.
Yeah.
I really question you.
Yeah.
1,010%. Because if you know for sure, then show me where you are.
Yeah.
Because you should know other things for sure.
Yeah.
So I would never, ever listen to someone like that.
Yeah.
I don't like prophets of doom. I don't. Because there is a lot of gloom and doom in the world, but there's also good. So who's shining the light on that good and the billionaires who are going to be born now?
Right.
If you look at things and the way that they're happening, if you are wise enough, you will jump on something and you will, for sure,
Yeah.
profit. not
Okay.
Be a prophet. So I feel like, there's a lot we can listen to, but
Yeah.
be selective. And really, 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 by somebody who gives a blanket statement,
Yeah.
no. I don't know. And whether they're saying it's going to be really, really bad, or this is this is really good, and you're going to
Yeah.
become a billionaire.
Yeah. Prosperity gospel as well is like
Yeah,
no.
I mean, like, if you know for sure, then show me,
Yeah.
show me. And yeah, I mean, like, it's not the first time the world is going through this, and people have survived it, right?
Yeah.
So we just ride the wave as opposed to becoming a worry wart and think, oh God, what am I going to do? Ride the wave and see where it takes you, and just have faith. I feel like all of this is a test.
Yeah.
You must walk in faith.
Okay. So I was talking about post capital, after the 1.5 years, making good money. What happens then? What happens for your financial journey then after that?
So I think I stopped working, would write a few articles here and there, and, just look for employment, like I said.
Yeah.
I think I just got tired. So I started my initiative one day when there was a mall that reached out to me and said, why don't you do a talk? Because, you used to be a presenter. Do a talk about desperate housewives. I was like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
They're like, no, do like a morning talk and get all the housewives to come and talk about fashion and skincare. And I'm like, no, women want more than fashion and skincare. So I sat with it and I'm like, I want to do something called What Women Want. And it's conversations about anything and everything when it comes to women. And it started off like, I remember when we had one of our panelists in our initial stages, we literally had, I think, 10 or 7 people in our audience. And when we called him a year later, we had 300 people in the audience. And he said, look at what consistency does.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the times we give up, before we've even gotten anywhere. So What Women Want started becoming something. And I was doing it for free, not charging anyone to come for these events, and just doing it for free. Yeah, I'm passionate. And so my husband would always like tease me. So which charity are you getting up for this morning? What charity work are you doing today?
Yeah.
And then I sat down and I thought, okay, I need to create something out
Yeah.
of this. I need to make it a business. I need
Yeah.
to make it work, including my public speaking. I need to make that a business.
Yeah.
So and also because, my team who I was employing needed a constant salary.
Yeah.
So I had to sort of sit down and think about what that's going to look like, even legally,
Yeah.
and make it official and start paying taxes.
Yeah.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where we are. So, a lot of what the company earns is through events, with the What Women Want events.
Yeah.
And then, either public speaking or influencer work. But I try not to do a lot of influencing work.
Yeah.
Only because I feel like I have a lot more to offer. And like I said, I want it to be a business. So it's not just a one-off thing. I want it to be something that can sustain me for a longer term.
Okay.
Yeah.
So when do you think that you became or started your journey towards financial literacy?
Maybe about 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
What
But it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. What inspired or what led to the thought of
It's the conversations I started having at What Women Want.
Yeah.
And when I found someone who can teach us about what to do with your money or where money goes or how you can make, X amount a month, or you can have investments. That's when I was like, wait, what? You mean this is something you teach? This is something I can pay for and learn? This is something I can call you about? Then I also recently found out there's a difference between an accountant and an auditor. It's so terrible. Yeah. I thought I was an educated person.
Yeah.
But yeah, all of these things, suddenly you're a bit more savvy and a bit more aware, and also then not so fearful of bills or taxes or what you need to do in order to make your business survive and thrive.
Okay. There's a comment you made when we started around, there's a theme around manifestation, but it was particularly on the premise that, which is, you haven't attracted a lot of money in your life. First of all, I would argue that a lot of people who would think $1 million shillings a month is
just what I get.
Yeah, it's a lot
Shillings,
of money.
dollars.
But first, why did you make that comment? Why is that something that you say, and why do you think that you haven't attracted?
I think it's just because of my experience with money growing up. So I believe in just like how you have trauma from anything else, you can have blocks from money and what money does.
Yeah.
And like I said, for me, it was just what I saw and how I saw it in my childhood. So I feel like there are a lot of blocks around money that I have that I need to work on unblocking, and therefore allowing a lot more abundance into my life.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting. If you could, and I guess maybe this is a lesson or a thought towards anyone who's trying to build an empire of some sort, or or has built an empire of some sort. What's the lesson? What's the lesson that you, as someone who was growing up in an empire that I guess didn't quite last the test of time, so to speak? What's the lesson there for the person who's building the empire or trying to build the empire?
Wow, that's an interesting question.
Yeah.
I always say that my father's money was not meant to be my money to spend. So, you can build your empire, but you have to understand why you're building it and for whom. And also, just know that when you are no longer here, you have no control of where it's going to go and what's going to happen. So enjoy your empire. And forget about only just making the money or spending the money. Leave a legacy. and think about what your legacy will look like, and whether it will continue to impact lives after you've left. I always say that with the amount of funding that we got during COVID, someone should have built another hospital. Because really, that is what we needed.
Yeah.
If not 2 or 3.
Yeah.
And that would have been a legacy, because it continues to help people even beyond the problem that
Right.
was. So, look at it not from an ego perspective. It's great. It's great to want. It's great to manifest. It's great to have a lot. But look at it from a factor of that you won't be here. And that is guaranteed. Nobody's going to live forever. So what is everything you acquire, or all your hard work, what's it going to do for somebody else who you probably don't even know? Yeah.
Okay. Do you think you've provided for your kids the childhood that your dad provided for you or your brothers?
No, for sure no.
Yeah.
Because like I said, it was very, 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 very
Yeah.
privileged. I've done my best to give them what I feel they need,
Yeah.
right? I also don't want them to be entitled, spoiled brats.
What does that feel like though? Because I feel or think that there's this unspoken rule of the next generation should do better, should take things to the next level. So what does it feel like, and how do you reconcile not meeting that expectation?
I mean, look, you have to be able to heal yourself, one,
Yeah.
in order for you to understand that it's not a bad thing to not give your child what you had when you were young, whether that's privilege or whether you wanted something and you weren't able to get it. What are we doing for our children as parents? We are just guides, right?
Yeah.
Our job is to guide our children to become adults who will be beneficial to society. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
So what is a person who's a benefit to society? Somebody who can look after themselves, somebody who can look after others, who can be kind, who is self-sufficient, who is able to, make money, who's able to help another person, who's able to empathize, who has compassion. So these are the things that I teach my children.
Yeah.
I was telling you before we started is that what I teach them is, yes, here's your allowance or whatever it is, but how are you going to double it?
Yeah.
My daughter's like, I'm going to save it. But it's not about saving. It's how are you going to make 2,000 bob, 4,000 bob by next week
Yeah.
or end of the month. And then how are you going to make that 4,000 bob, 8,000 bob, so you still have that 2,000 bob that you're so excited to spend, but you have 6,000 extra
Yeah.
that you can now double or play with or whatever. So it's teaching them that. They say what you've learned very late in your life, teach your children early.
Yeah.
And I will definitely teach them. My daughter, for some reason, has this thing that everything, like we'll go into a shop and she go, oh, this is so nice. I'm like, all right, let's buy it. And she goes, no, it's too expensive. Just put it back. It's too expensive.
Yeah.
But you see, I think she's learned, that's a learned behavior. It's somewhere, someone must have said something, even could be me.
Yeah.
That I've passed down to her. And I'm like, no, that's not a mentality to have. Abundance is all around. You definitely do deserve that. But it's how you're going to afford it.
Yeah.
And then when you do afford it, when you go and buy it, it's leaving the guilt. Because that's something that I used to do. When I'd spend money aimlessly, I would feel very guilty. Oh, I didn't deserve it. Oh, I shouldn't have bought those shoes. Oh, I shouldn't have. It's so much trauma around money.
Yeah. Looks like it. As we sort of wind up, if you're looking back, or when you look back, if you were to pick your top 2, top 3 financial regrets in everything that you've experienced through, whether it was as a child, whether it was as a family, what would you say, or even top 1?
Financial regrets?
Yes.
One would definitely be not saving. Because I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's great to save, but then how long are you saving for, and what's going to make you get those savings out? Like, what is it?
Yeah.
I think maybe saving with a goal
Yeah.
is a good idea. The other one is not investing, but then I didn't have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So maybe then the third one is not acquiring the knowledge, or
Yeah.
not looking for it, not educating myself, just not being a bit like
Yeah.
blasé about money.
Yeah. Do you think you'd trade the life you lived in what do you call it? I'm now also forgetting a word.
Perimenopause, Barrack.
Do you think you'd trade the life that you lived, I guess, in sort of luxury and very comfortable and not quite financially literate, to a different one where you wouldn't have the luxury, you wouldn't have the comfort, but you would be financially literate?
I would like financial literacy.
Yeah. You think you'd, if you were
Very.
given like a matrix red pill,
Yeah.
blue pill situation, you think you'd take the financial
Yeah.
literacy route, not the route that you took? Yeah.
I think financial literacy it's very empowering. We were talking about all these femicides that are happening
Yeah.
at the moment, and the one thing that came up as women is that you should be financially empowered enough to feel like you can walk away from a violent relationship at any point. You shouldn't be like, oh, but he pays the bills and he does
Yeah.
this. And as a woman, I think when you have knowledge on money, you are different. You show up differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, a lot of us are taught to hate money. Or we're taught if you love money, you're materialistic. That needs to change. That mentality needs to change. There's nothing wrong with the love of money. There's a saying that if, those of you who say money doesn't buy everything, you
Yeah.
don't know where to go shopping.
Maybe that's the title of this episode.
Because it's true. I mean, there's absolutely
Yeah,
nothing wrong with money.
yeah.
It's an energy. I teach my children this.
Yeah.
Money is an energy. You need to keep it moving.
Yeah.
And in order for it to keep moving, it needs to, you need to spend it and save
Yeah.
it and, share it,
Yeah.
do these things. Yeah.
Okay. This is my last question. In the vacuum, having been in a place of very, very, very extremely privileged place, right? And having lots of money and lots of things around you. And I guess now with the different work that you've done and the different charities that you've been in, different kinds of women and people you've talked to, what's an assumption that people who are trying to attain that level of money have, that based on what you experienced, isn't true, or, I guess is false, if there is one?
An assumption.
An
Okay,
assumption
wait.
that-
Just tell me this question.
Yeah.
What are you asking?
What I'm asking is, if I'm trying to work towards attaining the level of wealth that your family was at, and I have certain assumptions around what that would feel like or what that would be like, and maybe I think, it'll be easy,
Yeah.
and I'll be able to relax, I'll be able to travel, I'll be able to take 1,000,000 trips a year, and basically do everything that I want people to do. Right, and that's my assumption because I haven't experienced it yet,
Yeah.
right? But you've experienced it,
Yeah.
and so my question is: are there things that people make assumptions of about being at that kind of wealth status that aren't true, or that just aren't the case?
I don't know. I feel like I said, life with money is extremely comfortable.
Yeah,
So you can close your eyes and say, I need to go to Singapore to buy a Gucci bag if
Yeah.
you are very, 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 very wealthy. And that's what you want to do. But there's also the flip side of it, right? You need to ensure that everything you're doing is legal
Yeah.
as well. And you're keeping your books in check. And I feel that it's just as much work, right? So
Yeah.
where I have one accountant, I may have 10 or 50. So, there's always a flip side.
right.
But again, just going back to it, wealth is not bad.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's what you do with it.
yeah,
That's it's the same
That's
thing
the
with
key thing,
power.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. Those are my questions. This has been an incredible, incredible story. Like the definition of the word incredible. That's what
Oh
this
wow!
is.
Thank
That's
you.
what this is.
Thanks, Barra. I'm not going to read any comments.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. But I mean, crazy.
Yeah, I know,
Crazy.
crazy. Like I said, there
Crazy.
needs to be a movie made.
Yeah, you know what? I would say, yeah, if you probably wrote that movie and it had that those, I mean, Netflix is here now, Showmax is here
Yeah.
now, can definitely get like a whole
Crazy,
like
yeah.
4-part series.
Series, yeah.
Yeah, around how all of this went.
True.
Insane. Anyway, thank you so much, Pinky,
Thanks,
for
Barrack.
coming
Thank
through.
you, and well done.
Yeah, thanks for coming, and
Yeah.
this has been amazing.
Thank you.
And yeah, I'm sure we'll catch up soon.
Definitely. Thanks, guys.
This has been Financially Incorrect. We will see you guys on the next episode.